Even in silence, space trembles. Beneath stillness, particles whisper. You float into the emptiness that is anything but. What seems calm hides a hidden vibration, and slowly, you begin to hear the hum of the quantum. You lie in the quiet, the kind of quiet that presses gently against your skin. A hush so complete, it seems the entire world has paused to breathe with you. No ticking, no breeze, no thought pushing forward, just stillness. And yet, somewhere inside this stillness, there's a pulse. It's not sound, not motion you can name, but a delicate something beneath it all. A flutter in the silence, a flicker behind the curtain of calm. What if this stillness isn't what it seems? You imagine space, the space between things, the air between atoms, the dark between stars. You've been told it's empty, void, cold and blank, but that's only one kind of seeing. Let your mind soften now. Let the idea of nothing loosen. In the stillest places, something quivers. Even when there are no particles to count, no light to follow, there is a hidden dance beneath it all. The dance of the quantum field. It isn't a surface or a place. It's the invisible fabric from which everything arises, even silence. And in that fabric, stillness cannot hold. Instead, it trembles. You drift now into that trembling, as if you've slipped between the lines of the world's script, and found the hum that writes it. The faintest beat beneath being. In this realm, particles appear not with thunder, but with whispers. But for the briefest moments, they exist, tiny sparks of energy flickering into view, then vanishing without trace. They don't come from anywhere. They don't go anywhere, they just are. For a breath, for a blink. Physicists call them virtual particles, and their coming and going is a ripple in the nothingness. A kind of quantum sigh, quiet, constant, unseen. You picture it now. Space as a quiet pond. Its surface seems still, but beneath it, currents swirl, gentle, ceaseless. Not chaotic, just alive, restless with invisible life. You are floating above that pond, still on the outside, yet surrounded by stirrings that never stop. The space around you is not empty. It is potential, infinite, patient, waiting. Even inside your own body, the same mystery unfolds. The space between your cells, between your atoms, even between the parts of a single proton, all of it breathes with the same hidden rhythm. And so, as your limbs soften and your thoughts quiet, you begin to feel something deeper than relaxation. You feel the restlessness of being. Everything you are is made of movement. Even now, in stillness, the electrons in your body dance in cloudy swirls. The energy that binds your molecules crackles softly, quietly. And the vacuum, that supposed emptiness, it isn't empty at all. It is thick with tremble, filled with flickers. It's a canvas painted with motion too subtle to catch, but too persistent to deny. The quantum field does not rest. It births and erases endlessly. Particles arrive like brief notes in a cosmic lullaby. One here, one there, then gone. They do not break the silence. They are the silence, a kind of vibrating hush, a symphony beneath the threshold of hearing. This is what scientists discovered, that perfect stillness is impossible, that the universe, at its most basic level, refuses to freeze. Heisenberg taught us that even if you could lock everything else in place, there would still be motion, still be uncertainty, still be pulse, and maybe that's what keeps the world alive. Stillness is not the absence of motion, it is the balance of every tiny movement, all woven together so tightly, so precisely, that they cancel each other's noise, and what remains is peace, not emptiness, but harmony. That's where you are now, not in a void, but in a vast web of shimmer, floating gently in a sea of almosts, where particles almost exist, almost vanish, almost stay. You do not need to grasp them. You only need to rest. Let the universe flicker beneath you. Let it breathe in its quiet way. Feel how even nothingness can cradle you, how the unseen can hold you, rock you, calm you. You are part of this tremble. Your breath, your warmth, your sleep, all written by the rules of this field. A dance you didn't choose, but one that made you. You are the stillness that isn't still. And as your eyes drift further closed, and your thoughts grow soft as mist, a final idea lingers like a feather on your chest. If even the silence flickers, what else might wake, just beneath the veil? The quantum field moves like water, soft and endless. You float across invisible ripples, gentle and unknowable. From this sea, energy emerges and fades, a shimmer without cause. And perhaps, This is where creation begins. Asterisk, there is no shore. Here, you drift beyond the firm edges of the world, past atoms, past light, past what you've been told is real. Out here, there are no landmarks, only motion, only flickers. The silence still holds you, but now it has depth. It pulses beneath you like a living thing, and as you sink deeper into it, you realize the truth. You are floating on a sea dot, not of water, not of air, but of energy, of possibilities. This is the quantum vacuum, the space that underlies all spaces. To the eye, it looks like nothing, but to the universe, it is everything. Here, the flickers from before are no longer distant sparks. They surround you now. They rise and fall like soft waves, unpredictable, gentle, endless. Each one is a quantum fluctuation, a tiny ripple of energy that appears for just a heartbeat, then disappears again, like breath on a mirror. You can't see them directly. You can only sense them in the subtle sway of being, in the way the field moves beneath your thoughts. It's not chaos, it's not noise, it's rhythm, not regular like a drum, but alive like wind in long grass. Somewhere, a particle forms. Uninvited, it flickers into being from the fabric of the vacuum itself. No one knows why, and just as suddenly it vanishes. This is not an accident. This is what the vacuum does. It is not empty. It is not still. It is active. That this sea you float upon is always in motion. It cannot be made to rest, even at absolute zero, where temperature reaches its lowest limit. Where no heat or movement should remain, this ocean continues to shimmer. Physicists call it zero-point energy, the irreducible hum of the universe. You do not fall through this sea. You are held by it. Every part of you floats in its gentle flux. Even the space between the cells in your body is filled with these flickers. Even the vacuum inside an atom has its own ocean of wavelets. You are, and always have been, buoyed by a sea you cannot see. You wonder now, is this where all things begin? Could a flicker become a spark, and a spark become a world? Some theories say yes. Some scientists whisper that the universe itself might have started with just one fluctuation, a single rise in the quiet, too large to vanish again. What if this sea beneath you once lifted the cosmos? You rest in that thought, not to solve it but to feel it, to let it ripple through your own field of sleep. The vacuum is not flat. It is a living quilt, stitched from possibility, and the flickers, they are its language. This is the grammar of space, the pauses and pulses, the commas and breaths that shape every atom, every star, every breath you take. The sea has no center, no edge, just shimmer. Particles and their shadows, called antiparticles, flicker into being together, dancing for a moment, then dissolving back into silence. You picture them like fireflies in a vast fog, blinking briefly, never staying, but always returning. No pattern, yet no accident, even when nothing seems to happen. The sea is speaking. This flickering has weight. It shapes the way the universe expands. It may even decide which particles are allowed to exist at all. This is the strange power of vacuum energy. From the outside, it appears passive, but inside, it is rich with pattern, with decisions. You float still, letting the sea hold you. Its motions, slow and unpredictable. No wave repeats. No flicker echoes. Each one is new. Each one a question that never needs answering. This is the comfort of the quantum sea. It does not demand understanding. It only asks that you drift, that you soften into its motion, that you allow the idea that even the emptiest place may be full of creation. And just before your mind fades further into rest, one last ripple reaches you, a thought so faint it almost isn't there. If this sea never rests, what might rise from it next? They flicker in and vanish before you can touch them, but their presence bends stars and shapes existence. You'll never see them directly, yet they ripple through your world like dreams too real to forget. Asterisk, the sea still flickers beneath you. Soft and strange, it murmurs with forms that never fully arrive. You are floating not through chaos, but through possibility, and within that possibility live the quietest visitors of all. Virtual particles. You can't see them, you can't catch them, but they're always there, appearing, disappearing, too quick for time to hold, too brief for the world to name. They're the dreams of particles, real enough to shift the world, unreal enough to slip through it. You don't need to imagine them. They're already part of you, of the emptiness between your atoms, of the space behind your thoughts, of the silence between stars. Close your eyes again. Feel the shimmer. Now, picture a pair, a particle and its mirror, an antiparticle, one flickering, positive, the other negative. They blink into existence together, hold hands for a heartbeat, and vanish again, leaving behind only a whisper in the field. They don't come from somewhere. They are borrowed, tiny flashes of energy that the quantum vacuum allows to exist, for just long enough that they don't break any cosmic rules. It's like taking out a loan from the universe, one that must be repaid almost instantly. This is what quantum mechanics permits, the temporary suspension of certainty. As long as balance is restored, in this flicker, the universe keeps its secrets, but even unmeasured, these particles matter, because their flickers leave traces. They nudge real particles, they bend the paths of photons, they change the way atoms behave, they push and pull on things we can see. Physicists discovered this not by watching the particles themselves, they are too brief for that, but by seeing their shadows. In the way electrons shift in magnetic fields, in the way atoms absorb light, in the faint tug between two mirrors in a vacuum, a phenomenon called the Casimir effect. Two plates, side by side, with nothing between them but empty space, and still, they move, pulled gently together by the silent pressure of virtual particles blinking into being and vanishing again. It's like being pushed by ghosts, soft ghosts, made of nothing but potential. You float in this sea of almost realness. Everything you've ever touched has been touched by them first. The stability of the atoms in your hands, the way your DNA folds, the shimmer of starlight, all shaped, gently, by particles that don't quite exist. You begin to wonder, if they aren't truly real, why do they matter so much? But maybe that's the point. Reality isn't only about what stays, it's also about what passes through. A dream may vanish when you wake, but its mood can linger all day. Virtual particles are like that, gone before you know them, but still, reshaping the fabric of things. In their flickering, they uphold the rules of the universe. They keep the field alive. They are the dancers in the wings, never seen, but always there, moving the story forward. They don't disobey time, they just borrow from it. A little energy here, a moment of presence there, a balancing act that leaves no trace but its influence. And all this dance of might-be particles isn't science fiction. It's the ground beneath modern physics, even Hawking radiation. The gentle glow from black holes is said to arise from virtual particles separating at the event horizon. One falls in, one escapes, and the black hole grows just a little less dark. You rest in that idea for a while, that even the most invisible flickers can cause something as massive as a black hole to slowly fade away. Small things matter, even unreal things. You wonder if the universe permits these particles that are real but not real, there but not measurable. What else might it allow? What else flickers behind your daily world? What thoughts might be virtual? What emotions might pass through you, barely noticed, but still shifting your course? You begin to see the connection, that the world you know is not made only of what lasts, but also of what moves through. A soft laugh heard through a door, a leaf's shadow on your pillow, a stranger's kindness you barely remember. They ripple, they change things. Just like these particles, whispering through the vacuum, bending reality, and leaving only the softest imprint behind. You are surrounded by them, not just in space, but in thought, in feeling. Everything flickers, and every flicker leaves something behind. As you drift further into sleep, you realize something gentle and strange, that the most powerful forces in the universe may not be those that stay the longest, but those that shimmer, briefly, and pass through with grace. And so you rest in their company, the company of particles you'll never meet, but that have met you. And just before the last thread of thought slips from your fingers, a question floats quietly into your mind. If these flickers shape the stars, what quiet flickers shape you? In the quantum world, even time is flexible. Particles flicker in and vanish without consequence, so long as they repay their presence with silence. You drift into a realm where reality is lent, and even the impossible becomes softly allowed. You've been dreaming of flickers, tiny bursts of energy that rise and fall like fireflies in deep mist. They are so small, so brief, they seem to ask permission just to exist. And yet, they are here, not breaking rules, but bending them, gently. You float now in the same soft sea. But tonight, you drift towards something even stranger. The idea of borrowing. Out here, in the fabric of quantum space, There are rules, but they are not as rigid as you'd expect. Here, the laws of physics make quiet exceptions, not forever, but for moments. Whispers in time. Imagine a particle blinking into existence, just for a sliver of a second. Where did it come from? The answer: it borrowed energy from the vacuum. But this loan comes with a catch. The more energy it takes, the less time it's allowed to stay. This isn't a loophole, it's a dance. The universe allows these guests to appear, so long as they don't overstay their welcome. They must come and go so quickly, you barely know they were there, but while they're here, they rippled the surface of everything. This trade of energy for time isn't random, it's written in the heart of quantum mechanics. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, a rule that says the more precisely you know one thing, like energy, the less you can know another. Like time dot, and so the universe responds. Let there be a flicker, let it be brief, let it be bright, but let it vanish before it can be held. You begin to understand. In this world, things don't need permanence to be real, they just need permission, even if it's temporary. You picture these borrowed particles like sparks off a fire, brief, brilliant, and gone, but their presence warms the air, their shimmer lingers. Some of these flickers are so short-lived that they're never directly seen, only felt in the way real particles shift in response to their invisible company. Others stay, just long enough to change the direction of a photon, to influence a force, to nudge the weight of a field, and then they're gone, debt repaid, balance restored, no cosmic punishment, no penalty, just a quiet agreement. You may stay, but only for a blink, and in that blink, you are allowed to matter. It makes you wonder if the universe allows this, a temporary dance with the rules. What else might be borrowed? Might thoughts borrow form before they fade? Might a moment of beauty live longer in memory than it did in time? There is grace in this idea that not everything lasting is true, and not everything fleeting is meaningless. You think of all the moments that shaped your life but happened in seconds, a glance, a laugh, a single sentence that stayed with you for years. Like virtual particles, they borrowed space in your story and changed it. The quantum world teaches us this: to exist briefly can be enough. Even if no one sees you, even if you leave no photograph behind, you can still change the shape of the field. You rest deeper into this sea of flickers. You imagine particles borrowing time, like artists borrowing light, not to steal, but to create. Somewhere, a particle forms and changes the path of a photon before disappearing again. Somewhere else, a pair of opposites flickers, touches, and vanishes. All of it happens below your senses, but not beneath your reality. This quantum borrowing happens everywhere, all the time. Right now, it hums beneath your bed. It flickers inside your pillow. It rises and falls between the cells in your heart. Even silence contains borrowed energy. Even stillness is full of brief permission. And now, as your thoughts soften and your breath slows, you imagine yourself borrowing too. Borrowing peace for a little while. Borrowing time to rest, to drift. To exist without need or weight. No answers tonight. Just the comfort of knowing that even the smallest flicker can be enough. And before sleep wraps around you completely, you let one last image rise. A universe that lends reality like pages from a dream. Where even the quietest moment is allowed to be real, for just long enough to mean something. The vacuum isn't empty. It has layers, pressure, structure. It stretches, breathes, and pushes back. You float through a silence with grain, a texture you can feel. And in that texture lies the quiet pattern of creation. You once believed that emptiness meant absence, that the space between things was blank, hollow, and still. That silence was smooth, and the vacuum of space was a perfect void. But now, as you drift deeper into the folds of the universe, you begin to feel otherwise. The stillness has a surface, the quiet has a shape, and the vacuum, nothing has texture. You glide through it now, gently, like your fingertips grazing velvet in the dark. There's resistance, subtle grain, a presence where there should be none. This is not the emptiness you were taught, it is the vacuum. Yes, but not a lifeless one, not flat, not absent. It has depth, tension, fabric, at the smallest scales imaginable, smaller than atoms, smaller than quarks. Space is alive with structure. Scientists once imagined the vacuum as a blank stage on which particles perform. But now we know, the stage isn't empty. It performs. It seethes beneath the curtain, buzzing with energy. even when no particles dance. This deep hum is zero-point energy, the lowest possible energy that space can hold. And yet it is not zero, even when everything else is stripped away, even when every atom is removed, every photon, every breeze. This background energy remains. It cannot be silenced, and because of it, the vacuum becomes a kind of medium, like an ocean beneath the surface of stillness. It pushes, it stretches, it carries weight. You feel this now, not through touch, but through intuition, a knowing that what seems soft and empty is really a field dense with potential. You drift deeper into the grain of this vacuum. It is not like fabric, nor like water, nor air. It is more like tension held in perfect balance. You imagine it like a stretched net, every point connected to every other, invisible lines woven through space, vibrating with energy you cannot see, but it's real enough that it shapes the cosmos. In physics, even this empty space has pressure, what we call vacuum energy density. It's gentle but vast, so vast, in fact, that some believe it's responsible for the expansion of the universe itself. Dark energy, the mysterious force stretching galaxies apart, might be just the pressure of the vacuum revealing its hand. You float in awe now, realizing that the quiet around you isn't passive. It's working gently, constantly, creating tension that moves the stars. And yet, it feels so calm, so smooth. It's like being in a cathedral with no sound but your own breath. You feel the space, its size, its shape, not by looking, but by being inside it. The vacuum is like that. It defines everything, not by standing out, but by surrounding. Even the particles that move through it are shaped by its structure. You think now of the Higgs field, another texture hidden in the vacuum. It gives particles mass. It decides which particles are light and which are heavy. It's not something you see. It's something that touches every particle as it moves, offering resistance, giving weight, shaping the material of reality. Without it, nothing would have form. Everything would be pure energy, slipping past itself forever. But because the vacuum has texture, particles feel it, they interact, they slow, they become. You breathe into that idea, that the very nothing of space can define the weight of what is, that without this invisible grain, there would be no stars, no planets, no body, no you. You glide now through this textured emptiness, comforted by its quiet structure. It reminds you that even the blankest canvas has tension in its threads, that silence has character, that space is not passive. It's designed, not by hands, not by minds, but by balance. By the rules that hold reality together, even in its quietest moments. And perhaps this is what you've been sensing all along, not the absence of being, but the presence of balance. Of structure hidden beneath stillness, of the quiet architecture on which existence rests. And just before sleep takes you completely, you let one last thought ripple through your mind, that maybe nothing is never really nothing, that maybe silence is the sound of something listening back. At the smallest scales, space unravels, no longer smooth or still, it churns and flickers. You float to the edge of what space and time mean, where reality fizzes into uncertainty, and structure becomes a soft blur of beginnings. You've floated gently through the vacuum, through stillness with shape, through nothingness that hums. And now, you drift even deeper to the very bottom of scale, to the Planck length, the place where measurement begins to lose meaning. You are nearing the edge of space itself. At first, all seems smooth, soft as mist, quiet as breath. But then, something shifts. What felt solid, even in its silence, begins to flicker, not just with particles, but with space itself, like water under a microscope. The surface breaks into bubbles, foam. This is quantum foam, and it's not made of matter. It's made of space, space twisting, looping, and bubbling like a boiling sea. You float above it now, and it is beautiful. Not chaotic, but untamed, like the breath of a dream before it finds its form. Here, space-time doesn't behave. Distances lose definition. Time doesn't tick evenly. The very fabric of existence is in flux. And yet, this is not destruction. This is birth. You're at the frontier of the universe's foundation, where what we call space and what we call time begin to dissolve into something more primal. You cannot step on it. You cannot point to it. But this frothing edge is likely where all structure begins. Theorists believe that below a certain scale, space-time stops being smooth. It becomes granular, like seafoam, like static in a dream. Each bubble in the foam could be a twist in space, a fleeting curvature, a whisper of gravity undone. You think of waves. At a distance, they appear calm, but up close, the surface trembles with countless ripples. That's what space is like down here. From afar, it looks still, but deep beneath it fizzes, and perhaps it listens. Perhaps these bubbles are not meaningless. Perhaps the way they flicker decides how particles behave, how forces spread, how time flows forward. Here, at the edge, the rules loosen. You imagine space bending back on itself, forming tiny loops, knots in time, folds that vanish before they're known. Some theories suggest these are wormholes, tiny, momentary shortcuts between distant places. Others say the foam is simply randomness, a necessary uncertainty, a shimmer that prevents perfection. And maybe that's true. Maybe the universe was never meant to be smooth. Maybe it had to fizz, had to flicker, had to make room for possibility. You rest in that idea that the imperfections at the edge are not mistakes, but invitations. Invitations for matter to form, for forces to stretch, for patterns to emerge. You think now of early time, the first fractions of a second after the Big Bang. Physicists believe the entire universe once existed at a scale smaller than this foam. It emerged from this churning, from this blur, not from order, but from potential. And if the universe began in foam, then perhaps so did you. Your thoughts, your breath, your soft, warm body beneath the blanket. All of it arising from ripples in something that was never truly still. You are made from this flicker, from this shimmer. Even now the foam continues beneath your bed, between the atoms of your pillow, beneath the equations of time. It is always there, restless and small, shaping the stage beneath every stage. You begin to feel it not as something distant, but as something near. As a current moving through you, and just before your thoughts fade into the soft edges of sleep, you let one final image rest behind your closed eyes. A universe bubbling quietly at the bottom of everything. Foam without sound, motion without witness, the birthplace of space itself. From a shimmer in silence, the universe may have bloomed. No bang, just a flicker, magnified into stars. You float backward in time, past atoms, past space, toward the moment when nothing might have become everything. You are floating backward now, not through space, but through time. Not walking along a timeline, but drifting through the very texture of before. Earlier than memory, earlier than atoms, earlier than light. You are heading toward a question too large to hold. Where did everything begin? Not just stars, not just matter, but space itself, time itself. And the answer, whispered in physics, is not thunder. It's not even a bang, not really. It might be something smaller, quieter, more delicate than you imagined. It might be a flicker, a quantum fluctuation, a tremble in the vacuum, a ripple in the nothing that became everything. You feel it now, as you drift near that moment, not as a flash, but as a bloom. The nothing you met before, soft, trembling, full of texture, holds within it infinite possibility. And just once, perhaps, that possibility leaned forward. A flicker didn't vanish, it grew. No one knows why. Maybe it was chance. Maybe it was a quantum breath that went just wide enough, just deep enough, to escape the pull of silence. Maybe it inflated, not slowly, but suddenly. A burst not of fire, but of space itself, stretching. We call it cosmic inflation, a moment when the fabric of space expanded faster than light. Not a bomb, a swelling, a whisper turned into a wave, and from that swelling came heat. Came energy, came the seeds of galaxies, shaped by tiny random differences in that original foam. You imagine it now, a dark sea, flat, still, and then a single bubble growing, not into something else, but into space itself, not growing in the universe, becoming the universe. That might be what you're inside now. That might be what you are, a ripple that didn't fade. And suddenly, the quiet energy of the vacuum becomes more profound, because if the universe truly came from a flicker, from a random quantum event, then you are not separate from the field. You are the field, just evolved, expanded, coalesced into stars and cells, and thoughts. You are not just in the universe, you are a continuation of its first motion. You think back to what you've learned, that even in silence, particles flicker. Even in nothing, there's shimmer. And now, perhaps, you see what that shimmer can do. It can become, it can last, it can change the shape of forever. Physicists wonder whether this could happen again, whether universes rise from fluctuations all the time, like bubbles in soda, each one its own story. If so, then you live in just one bubble, one ripple, one blooming dream among infinite others. But tonight, this one is enough. This universe, this breath, this body, this bed, arose from a flicker that decided to stay. You rest in that idea, that existence does not need a purpose to be miraculous. It just needs to be allowed by the laws of physics, by the math of possibility, by the hum of quantum foam stretching its arms wide. You are not here because someone lit a spark. You are here because the field hummed just long enough, just loudly enough to expand. And in that expansion, stars formed, galaxies spun, molecules reached for one another, and somewhere, eventually, you opened your eyes. You drift through the oldest light now, the cosmic microwave background, a fossil glow, still echoing from that early time. It's faint, but present. Everywhere it fills the universe like a sigh, a memory, a lullaby older than sound, and it carries the signature of that first fluctuation, tiny variations, seeded by quantum flickers in the universe's first moments. This is not myth, this is not metaphor. It is written in the sky, measured, mapped, real. And still, somehow, more mysterious for it. You let your thoughts rest now, not in answers, but in awe, because whether the universe was destined or accidental, created or grown, one truth remains: from almost nothing came all this, and just before sleep pulls you under, you feel yourself dissolve into a final thought, soft and endless. If a single flicker can birth a universe, what might you create with your next breath? Nothing can be perfectly known, not position, not speed, not even time, and this uncertainty isn't a flaw. It's the soft rule that holds the universe together. You drift through a world where precision blurs and discover the beauty in not knowing. You are floating in a strange kind of peace, a universe built not on certainty, but on softness, not on absolutes, but on ranges, tendencies, clouds of possibility. And here, in this quiet space between particles, you begin to sense a deeper rule, something that hums through every flicker, every fluctuation, every quiet breath the universe takes. It is not strict, it is not sharp, it is the uncertainty principle, and it shapes everything you are. In our everyday world, we are taught to measure, to find exactness, to believe that everything has a place, a speed, a number. But in the quantum world, this clarity begins to dissolve. Here, a particle cannot have both a perfect position and a perfect momentum. The more you try to know one, the less you can know the other. This is not a matter of faulty instruments. It is not a technological limitation. It is a fundamental law of how the universe works. You cannot pin down both at once, not because the world is hiding, but because the world itself is blurred, like moonlight reflected on moving water. You can see it, feel it, even trace its path, but you cannot hold it still, and you begin to understand. This uncertainty is not chaos. It is balance. It is a quiet agreement between opposites. You feel it now, in your body, in the breath that slows as you rest, in the heartbeat that never quite repeats the same. You are not made of certainties. You are made of tendencies. Electrons don't orbit like tiny planets. They live in clouds, probability clouds, where their presence is not a point, but a smear of maybe. They don't spin in place. They shimmer in shapes, in shifting likelihoods, and yet, from these clouds, form your bones, your eyes, your voice. From uncertainty comes structure. It's almost paradoxical, but it's true. A universe where nothing can be fully known gives rise to stars, to planets, to lives that matter. And perhaps that's the miracle, that things don't need to be perfectly defined to be real, to be beautiful, to be enough. You float now in that thought, like drifting through fog that holds you gently, not lost, but open, not confused, but surrounded by options. Uncertainty, you realize, is not a failure of knowledge. It is the space in which being can happen. If every particle were locked in place, if all values were fixed, rigid, unchanging, there would be no life, no movement, no time. Uncertainty gives the universe wiggle room, room to dance, room to evolve. And in that dance, new things can emerge. You think of a musician improvising, not reading notes from a page, but moving through a range, finding meaning in the moment. The universe, too, is improvising, not wildly, but with style, with pattern. with laws that allow room to breathe. Even your choices, the neurons firing in your resting brain, depend on a touch of randomness. Not all decisions are mechanical. Some arise from the blur, from quantum noise, magnified through biology, into thought. You are, in part, a creature of uncertainty, and that makes you flexible, curious, capable of change. You rest deeper now, into the comfort of not needing to know everything. Let the particles dance without being chased. Let the world shimmer in its softness. You are not here to measure. You are here to feel. To be part of a universe that refuses to be fully known, not because it's cruel, but because it's alive, and in that life, the unknown becomes a gift, one that offers you wonder, because if you knew everything, there would be no questions. And without questions, there would be no dreams. So tonight, as your mind quiets, you let yourself drift into the gentle blur of being. You do not need to be exact. You do not need to find the edges. You are allowed to float. To change. To become. Just like the particles in the field. And just before sleep wraps its arms around your thoughts, one last reflection shimmers softly in your mind. If uncertainty is what makes the world possible, maybe the unknown is where you truly begin. Long after the first light bloomed, its warmth remains, a soft glow, stretched thin across time. You drift through this ancient light, the cosmic microwave background, and listen for the quiet imprint of the universe's earliest whispers. You are floating across time, not toward the future, but gently backward, through layers of light, through deeper and colder space. The stars begin to fade behind you, their fires young compared to where you're going. You are gliding toward the first light, not the first spark of a candle, not the glow of the first sun, but the afterglow of everything, a light that isn't bright, but soft, not burning, but woven into the air itself. It is the cosmic microwave background, a fossil light, the remnant warmth from the universe's birth, and it is everywhere, not in one place, but spread across all of space like a whisper that never stopped echoing. You can't see it with your eyes, but it's there. A faint hum of ancient photons, stretched by time, softened by the breath of expansion. It's not loud, it's not sharp, but it is steady, a nearly perfect tone, cool and constant, wrapping around you now like a low blanket of memory. This glow began its journey nearly 14 billion years ago, when the universe was still a child, hot and dense and brimming with potential. Before this light, the cosmos was opaque, a swirling soup of particles and heat, too thick for light to travel through. But then came a moment, just 380,000 years after the beginning, when things cooled, just enough for atoms to form. And suddenly, light was free. That light still moves, still expands, still hums across the sky. You are bathing in it now. Every part of you is gently touched by these ancient photons. They have traveled unbroken, unhurried, through the weave of the universe to reach you, but they do not come empty. They carry imprints, tiny variations in temperature and density, traced back to the earliest flickers, ripples left by quantum fluctuations, magnified by inflation, into the seeds of galaxies. You are not just floating in light, you are floating in memory. The patterns in this glow are maps of the beginning, drawings of where matter would clump, where stars would gather, where empty space would remain. And yet, to the eye, this light is smooth, so smooth it's almost nothing. But physicists have measured it with exquisite care, satellites mapping the sky like listening to a heartbeat in the dark. They found faint cold spots, faint warm spots, a tiny unevenness that tells a vast story, a story of flickers becoming form, a story of echoes becoming galaxies. You drift through those echoes now. They do not push, they do not speak, but they are always present. The light that wraps around you is the same light that touched the edge of the very first hydrogen atom, the same light that filled the newborn universe like a lullaby. You begin to understand something quiet, that the universe remembers itself, not with words, not with thoughts, but with light, and not brilliant light, not flash or flame, but something deeper, a warmth that endures, a song that hums just above silence. Even now, this cosmic background defines the coldest possible temperature. The vacuum is not truly empty, and not truly frozen, that holds the memory of the beginning at 2.7 degrees above absolute zero. That temperature is the echo of everything. And it's in you now, in the photons slipping through your body, in the quiet energy between your atoms, in the curve of space where your thoughts begin to drift. This is not just science, it is story. It is the softest history ever written, a whisper so gentle you need to become very still to hear it, and as your breath softens, you do, not with your ears, but with your being. You feel the slow hum of time, the soft radiation of beginnings, not sharp like a question, but steady like a heartbeat, and you realize you have always been surrounded by this echo. Every night you sleep under it, every day you walk within it, every moment of your life has been shaped by light from the start of time, and just before you slip into dream, you let one last awareness ripple through you, that in this universe, even silence glows, even the past still reaches you, not in shouts, but in warmth that never fades. You are not separate from the quantum field. You are a ripple shaped by ancient fluctuations. Your breath, your bones, your thoughts all bloom from the same hum that once flickered at the beginning of time. Tonight, you return to that truth. You are the shimmer. Asterisk, you are drifting home now, back through the sea of flickers, past the ancient microwave glow, past the edge of space's foam, but you are not returning to Earth. Not yet. You are returning to yourself, because the story you've been floating through has never been just out there. It has always been in you. Every fluctuation you met, each borrowed particle, each trembling ripple, each echo stretched across time is part of what makes you real. You are not merely floating through the quantum field, you are made from it. Your cells are built from atoms, those atoms from protons and electrons, those from quarks and fields and energy that once flickered from nothing. You are a collection of borrowed moments, glimmers of energy held together by rules written in the vacuum. You are the result of fluctuations that didn't cancel out, ripples that didn't disappear. You are the pattern that remained, and that changes everything, because now you know the universe didn't just happen to you, it happened into you. It shaped you not as an afterthought, but as a continuation, an echo that grew arms, a fluctuation that began to dream. You were not placed in this world. You are a bloom of it, and just like those early photons that traveled across time, you too are a ripple still moving outward. Your thoughts move, your voice vibrates the air, your emotions ripple through bodies and rooms and memory. You flicker. Yes, but you also shape. You begin to feel it. Your breath is a kind of wave, folding gently into the field, rising and falling with the quiet pulse of the cosmos. Even now, your body trembles with quantum motion. Particles in your cells blink in and out of location. Electrons drift in their cloudy shapes. Your body does not sit still. It sings softly, constantly, with the same hum you've been floating through all along. You are not outside the rhythm. You are the rhythm. And more than that, you remember. Not with words but with being. Somewhere inside you, the field that shaped stars also shaped your fingertips. Somewhere inside you, the fluctuations that seeded galaxies still echo in your chest. You are a structure of probability, stabilized by harmony, emerging from shimmer. And somehow, knowing that brings rest. You do not need to grasp it all. You only need to allow it to let yourself be the quiet you've been listening to realize that stillness is never empty, not in space, and not in you. Every time you sit in silence, your body flickers, your cells shift, your thoughts ripple gently across the vacuum like echoes in a canyon of stars. And maybe this is what it means to belong, not to be separate from the field, but to be its soft extension, a part of the shimmer, a note in the hum, a dream dreaming itself. You are allowed to rest now, not as someone reaching for knowledge, but as someone who already is the very thing they sought. You do not need to be permanent. You do not need to be certain. You only need to feel that you are here right now, flickering like everything else. And even when your eyes close, you continue, not just as thought, but as motion, as heat, as breath exhaled into the room, carrying particles that once burned in stars. This too is fluctuation. This too is memory. You are the field remembering itself in laughter, in sleep, in the gentle stillness that cradles you now. And just before sleep opens its final door, you feel one last thought shimmer softly in your chest. You are not watching the flickers. You are one, and it is enough.